Eric, you've recently had your music placed in not one, but multiple shows over the years, and one particular on Netflix. And we've seen some pretty massive impact to streams. So, what would you say is the relationship between getting music synced somewhere and streaming platforms or music download platforms or whatever?
Well, I think the relationship depends on it being probably something that has vocals, something that is a pop or rock type of tune, because I get placements all the time where there's just music, like a track playing in the background, and a little bit of the track played on this one. But we'll talk
Mhm.
about why I think this has become such a big spike on my Spotify and Apple and all that stats. But let me tell you, I think it's because it's first of all, it was written to be that kind of generic "I will love you" song for the rest of my life, which is actually the lyrics, and it's a girl singing, and it's "I will," it's so very poppy and clappy and happy and positive, which is kind of a a a a staple in sync licensing. I mean, if you that's what I was taught from the very first when I started to figure this out 7 or 8 years ago, is that this is a upbeat people respond to upbeat, positive music, which is why I call my company Positive Spin Songs, and they do. I mean, we know they do now, especially after what we're seeing on the data from, streaming. I didn't necessarily expect this, but I'm not surprised by it, really. I kind of didn't even know about it until somebody said something. I have a video on my YouTube site of this. Somebody sent me a message or a comment on my YouTube site for Positive Spin Songs. And on the site, they said, "I love this song, and I was so happy to see it on season 5, episode 10 of Love Is Blind." I'm like, "Thank you very much for telling me exactly where it is." And because I didn't even know. TuneSat, which is a program that you can use to see what it listens to all TV and see if your song has been put on something. I didn't see it on that. And so
Mm.
I really had no idea until that someone, and I've thanked her on a video before, whoever it was who left a message. It- I went and I said, "Oh," I walked in the family room. I said, "Honey, let's go see this." Apparently, my show's been on Netflix show, and we had watched I'm like you, I'd watched a few seasons of it, or maybe one season, until we just said, "This is too dumb." And so we were watching it, and we didn't have to wait long. It was the last week on Love Is Blind, blah 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 blah, and then and then it starts with this car pulling into this house, long shot, and I hear this guitar that I literally did on this keyboard. It's a Native Instruments guitar programming guitar. It sounds really good. It sounds so good that the actual guitarist, when I sent it off for guitars, he said, "Dude, that sounds great. Just leave it." And I'm like,
Mm.
"Okay." And so it's got the program guitars there, and I was, and then uh, I think she starts singing a little bit, the verse, and then it cuts to the bride getting out of the car, and the bride is saying thank you to the guy letting her out of the car, and blah blah blah. And then it pulls back, and then you see the logo of the show, and I'm going to show it to you right here.
Yeah, yeah,
Boom.
yeah.
Boom, right on the freaking logo of the show, and it's the logo is kinda growing, and it's it they put some kind of sound effect on it, but my song
Yeah.
is full blast. I will play in the chorus, full logo placement chorus, full vol and I say full volume because that's important, because most syncs that you get are way in the background. They're just
Yeah.
behind people doing stuff and being dumb, and it's just to fill up the background noise rather than just silence. And most of what I see is that, and you have to really listen to find yourself. I remember I had something in a Hulu movie, and it continues to pay me, but I've had to I had to search through that movie 3 times. It was a long Christmas, one of those Hallmark movies, Christmas movies, and I had to listen to that thing,
Yeah.
and there must be 4,000 cues in there of different Christmas carols, and but mine was in there for like 10 seconds or 15 seconds or something like that.
Yeah, I
And
know some people who have gotten like in like Chicago Fire or Chicago PD or whatever, one of those you know those, I don't even know what to describe those shows, but there's moments where they go into a bar or a restaurant and there's just music playing in the background, and it could literally be anything. It could be a popular song, it could be a generic song, it could be whatever. You hear it, but you don't really know what it is. You can't hear the words, and so it's hard to look up the song or Shazam it
yeah,
even. And let's dive into showing some of those charts you have,
sure.
because uh, what we're seeing here is, and for anyone who doesn't know Love is Blind, it's a massively successful reality TV show about people that they date in pods without seeing each other, and then they basically have to propose to meet their bride, and then they have to go on the altar and either get married or reject them. So it's a reality. You could call it, people make fun of these shows all the time.
It's a bachelor type show.
I call them crap TV shows, but like they're very fun to watch, and they're great dinner shows. I watch stuff like this with my wife all the time when we're eating dinner, and they're just fun, right? And
Yeah,
but this is massively popular. Like on
yeah,
TikTok, people talk about the show all the time. Like, oh, who's gonna marry who's gonna date who, whatever. Um, and you can see the massive streaming pop that corresponds with the airing
yeah,
of the
and
show.
this is one of those shows that I say Love is Blind, people are like, "What? Really? I love that show. We watched that show." It's the it's the hit so far because I've been on lots of shows in Germany. Now, if you're in Germany, I've been on some hit shows in Germany, but nobody's in Germany. Um, so yeah, I this was season 5, episode 10. It's towards the end of the season when the girl's getting married and stuff like that. But it aired on October 13th, 2023. So about 9 months ago now. And I just started, I saw the actual very first check on this last May statement from BMI. And
Mm,
there should be some upfront money, sync licensing money or sync income royalties coming from the library at some point, but I don't know when that's going to be because they only pay twice a year. So here is
right.
the first one to look at, and this is just the obvious one to look at really fast. And you see, this is my Spotify thing for, I guess, the year, actually, world June 3rd to now. So the past year from today, basically, when we were recording this to a year ago. And you can see there was something here on at the beginning. I don't know what it was, but usually nothing. Usually not many, couple 5 streams. Again, I don't push this at all. I put stuff up, and my library has requested, and most libraries, once we get to a certain point, they request me to not put it on my channel, and they'll put it on theirs on Spotify, and they want to stream it now, but they will mention, they'll do like their name, comma, positive spin song. So it'll, people
Yeah.
will find it and it'll still be kind of referred to on my accounts. But this particular song was already on mine, and I hadn't taken it down yet, and I'm not going to. But anyway, you can see October 1st is here, and October 13th, clear as day. Boom! I mean, when that show hit on its premiere, from then on, it has just been. I mean, there's been a decline, but it's a consistency, though. What do you call this? You have names for these kind of things, I think.
I mean, I would just call it consistency, essentially.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
because
it's kind of like anytime you get a pop in a promotional activity, usually there's a decay in which the promotion's over, but there's some residual effect that happens after, and that like a year out, 5 years out, it might keep on going depending on how big the initial push was. At this point, it's probably just because the show, it's still, people are still catching up on watching the show. It's a popular show, so people are still listening. But there's probably a whole bunch of people who have saved the song, added it to their own internal playlists, and they're re-listening to it on their own, which means now you're getting actual fans who
yeah,
like your music, who are
yeah.
probably trickling over to the rest of your catalog.
I need to put more music
Additionally,
up.
yeah. Additionally, there could be some algorithmic thing happening
Yeah,
where Spotify sees that all the people checking this out like a lot of other stuff that's in Love is Blind.
Yeah.
So then when people start listening to some Love is Blind stuff, they get algorithmically recommended this song because they can see that people that like Love is Blind also like your song.
And I haven't done any, like, searching through, like, playlists. I don't know if there are Love is Blind playlists and stuff like that, but
There
it
definitely are.
it wouldn't surprise me if this was in one of those, but and remember that people will, like, just find the show and start to binge it, and that is a lot of people say, "Have you what?" They're at work, "You've never seen Love is Blind? Oh, you gotta watch it. It's so and so," and then they'll
Yeah,
binge it over the weekend, and you'll have, a spike or something like that, but this is Apple Music, same deal, October, and boom, you could just see when it premieres. And then, that first week, I think they say on Netflix they get some huge number, like 75 to 90% of all views in the first week of a
yeah,
Netflix show when it premieres. But again, it's continuing to be strong. This is the actual month of October that you can kind of see a little bit more in detail. And this is what's happened just this. This is just this year. Even in February, I
yeah,
had a little bump, maybe around Valentine's Day.
yeah.
But anyway, it
Probably.
continues to get me more than usual there. And, believe it or not, you can even see it at Amazon Music. You can see it happen right here, and that's what was so funny, and yeah, right here. It happens in the same spot, and it's even had some spikes this year, or at least my
Yeah.
listeners have. So, anyway, very yeah, even
I bet
streams.
what's happening is that people hear it in in the show and they're like, "Oh, I like that. I wonder who this song is by." So they
Yeah,
pull out their phone, and most people have an app in their phone called Shazam.
yeah.
I have like a special button for it
Yeah,
in
it's built into
my
Apple now.
it's built into iPhone, so I have like a special shortcut where I can just scroll down my control center, click
Yeah,
Shazam. But basically, you just click Shazam, it listens for the music, and then it tells you who it's by, and then you can go look it up,
yeah,
and it's really good. Like I do it randomly when I'm. I remember last season of the Circle, which is another reality Netflix show that I watch. So that's my favorite one, The Circle. And there's this music, there's a song playing. I was like, oh, this is actually like really good. You know, usually the background music, it's just background, and I check it out, and the artist has like like 500 monthly listeners. I'm like,
yeah,
this is crazy. How this artist get a song in Netflix? And I'm guessing it's because of they're less concerned about developing their streaming and artistry
mhm.
project. They're more concerned with making music that's syncable and making their money off the back end and not being like a public figure because you don't have this music up because you want to be some famous rock star. You
Right,
have your music up there because you're proud of it, you loved making it, and you want to have it a way for people to consume it. But you're mostly focused on the sync side
yeah.
of things.
And there's probably 80% of what I have out on libraries and stuff that's not up there. Even though
Yeah,
I could put it up there, and or some libraries don't want you to put it up on your Spotify because they wanna put it up on theirs. And
yeah,
so, if you're lucky, like my main library, they will include me in sometimes not only my, Positive Spin songs Spotify, but my John Eric Copeland, my kind of composer one as well, because that's my official
yeah,
name with copyright and stuff. So they will put it to there as well. And so but see, my problem is everybody who comes there is going to be ultimately disappointed because while there are some good songs that they can hear there, they're not all of that style. And one of the
yeah,
problems with being an artist in sync is that if you do so many different styles like that, they could just as easily hear a classical tune, or they could hear a jazz tune, or they could hear some dramedy instrumental weird thing. So they I mean,
yeah,
it's all good as far as quality and stuff, but it's just not the same song that they came there for, and so they're
yeah,
probably only gonna find about there's a whole album that's similar, and they're all vocal tunes and they're all pop tunes, so they might like some of those, but and I do country ones, and I do pop ones and rock ones, and so there'll be more coming, but
yeah.
they're gonna be ultimately
It's
disappointed,
going
I'm
to be a
afraid.
big mixed bag,
Yeah.
essentially. I know someone else that they've gotten they're more of like an artist project first that happens to get a good amount of their music synced.
Mhm.
So their style's very consistent. They do basically one type of music. And they tend to write songs like, for example, they put out like a wedding song, and the band is a couple. They're a married couple, and basically they wrote, before they got married, they wrote their own wedding song for their wedding,
Oh, nice.
and they released it in their style. And they also were able to get it synced to various Netflix shows where, like, honestly, one of them might be Love Is Blind, but like
Yeah.
the first season or something. But their song now has 13.6 million streams, and um, a big part of it is because it got multiple syncs in
Yeah.
various TV and film. They had another one that was they wrote a song about their like firstborn child, and so they did kind of like a love letter song of a parent to their unborn baby, kind of a thing. So they kind of always like write their songs with some deep meaning, but they kind of write them with sync in mind. Like, oh, like a wedding song, like that's something that not only can be like really great as a song, but it can be syncable in all situations, and it can also be played at weddings, right? So
Well, music
that's another thing.
supervisors are looking for pop songs with words. They want that song that they can put in a situation like this. They want it where they can put it in a montage where there's like stuff going on where all these different scenes are happening and they need something behind there and they're not really listening to the audio. They're really listening to the words of the song because it means something in that particular scene. Or like this
Yeah,
one, they ended up, the song's called I will love you for the rest of my life. And they ended up not even getting together. But which is the ironic part. Sorry, spoiler alert. But but anyway, all that said, I think they look for music supervisors love to find that song, that diamond in the rough by some artist. And so it's very artist friendly. It just has to be produced
yeah,
very well, and then you know if you're going to make this a thing, you'd be better off, and I would be better off if I had more stuff up there like this. And I will have more
right,
stuff up there like this eventually, but because I'm working on another pop album and a country album and stuff. But again, people going there, I know how mad I get when I go to a Spotify profile and I hear a song on a playlist somewhere. I go to a Spotify playlist and there's like two songs like that there, and I'm like, ah, I thought I'd found a new artist, right? And so I know ultimately it can be disappointing, but doesn't mean it still doesn't make money and work.
right.
So it does.
Gonna branch off the path a little bit here.
Okay.
Um, how do you think the whole AI music thing is going to impact library music in particular? Because there's a difference between syncing like a Billie Eilish track to a TV show than an unknown song to a TV show, right? Um, in my head, like the library end is probably the most at risk, at least for like certain genres with the AI music, just because like if they don't have to pay anyone, they can just subscribe to $10 a month and generate AI music. Like, I don't know. Have you thought about that at all, or seen any impact of that yet?
The general thought is that it's not going to affect us in the sync world much right now because just like I said before, just like with Crucial Music, they are cutthroat on what they accept and what they want to get because they have to have all the copyright sewn up. And if there's one thing AI hasn't gotten
Oh
is
yeah,
copyright sewn up.
the legal thing's a nightmare.
So no music supervisor is going to touch that for fear of losing their job. And I don't know if you've seen music supervisors before, but they're usually probably not any older than you are or younger. And so these people are probably not, even though they might be cool enough to say, "Ooh, we could do this with AI." They know that if they can't exactly know who wrote every single thing, then there is no way they're going to even try to sign a
Yeah.
deal. And so right now, stock music and stuff like that, even that though is under risk. My friend Dave Croft, he recently did a video showing how he went to some AI site. I'm not even going to mention the site's name, but he did the site and he pulled the thing that he made there. He suggested something, have it made, and it made it, and he put it on into Logic, and he did the stem splitter, and he just took the drums and he showed the drums by themselves, and then he put the drum in another beat, and his goal was to make another another song with that beat, and he
Yeah.
did, and but when he got done, and it was I think I don't know if it was live video or not, but the minute I think it was live, and when he got done, the minute he got done, there was a claim. There was 4 different claims off that video for that section where he showed the drum beat from 4 different libraries and people. So either it was a splice loop that different people were getting and using, and they all put it in their song, or it ripped off something, and who knows?
Yeah.
This is where we are with it right now. It's a quagmire, and so I don't think that Sync is going to be dealing much with it just yet. I think it's a possibility if there is um, generated stuff for background music that they can do that is copyright, but still, I just
Yeah.
don't see them
I,
using it
I think
unless.
they probably won't risk it until the government, like the laws, catch up to the technology. And considering how slow the government
Yeah,
works, it's probably a whiles off. Because I went to a sync like talk when I was at NAM this year. So they had all these different people who, like, this guy's a supervisor for this. This guy owns a library. This, all these experts. And one of them said he flat out won't accept any song in his library that uses any loops or
yeah.
samples from Splice. And
That
and he
BMG
was like,
library I
if
told you about, they literally said that 6 months ago. They said, "No more splice loops. As a matter of fact, here are the only loops you can have. We'll give you a library of loops. Otherwise, you have to make everything with your own fingers and your own hands and play everything."
yeah, and they said like the legally they're not, they just don't want to have any barriers. But also he felt like if their library they allow it, their library starts to start sounding the same like as like everyone else's. So their opinion was like, if it's got a loop, just go replace the loop. Like, we'll accept the song if you go re-record that part from scratch, but like we're not going to accept it because you bought like a cymatics loop or you use like a built-in logic loop or whatever. Like,
Mhm.
they just don't want to deal with it. They don't want their library to sound loopy, so to speak.
Yeah.
And the AI is just that to the
Handcrafted.
extreme.
Handcrafted is where we're going with this. These are you don't understand, these music supervisors are looking for songs like that couple that you said did that song, that these original, unique songs. That's what they're all looking for. The last thing they
Yeah,
want is needle drop sounding stuff. Now, they might want some, dramedy type stuff, and maybe that side of things where it's behind the scenes music and stuff like that, but still, it just opens up right now so many problems for them if it goes out and Content ID or whatever listening service hears it and starts, and somebody comes in and say, "Hey, you didn't have the right to put that in your movie and your TV show."
yeah,
Are you kidding? They will. There's just no way they would do that. So, and libraries are harder and harder to get in because they want really original human sounding music, and they want less and less. I mean, if it's hip hop, that's its own thing, but the kind of stuff I do where it's orchestrated and it's very uh, e- even the pop stuff where you've got a singer who sounds very human, you've got really acoustic instruments and stuff, and I know these programs can make that kind of stuff, but who knows
yeah,
where they're getting it, and I just think it's too much for them right now. Even in
yeah,
Content ID, we're having a problem, so it's not even going to work in the stock music or the world right now because you're just going to get too many claims. And so I think we're safe for the time being, but especially Sync, those music supervisors are looking for something, especially if it's a song that, like this one, that they wanted for the top of the show. There's no way they're going to use something unless it's so super buttoned up copyright wise. And they know they can get it from a trusted source at BMI and it's already, I mean, BMG, and it's already cleared and they know exactly who owns the rights and it's safe. So
yeah. I guess the last thing to kind of wrap it up,
yeah.
people are always asking me, how do I get into sync? Andrew, you never talk about sync. And the reason why I don't is because I don't really know that much about it. So, but Eric here is, this is basically is one of the biggest things he talks about is how to get your music synced, how to make money from getting your music into various types of placements, library music or what have you. So, what's kind of like a quick starting point for people who want to get into this world, and um, where should they start on your channel to learn more about it.
Well, there are playlists on my channel just like there are on yours, and I have sync playlists on there. I kind of talk about it just about it weekly. It's a lot right now because I'm just putting out a course about it, about how I got into sync and how you can too, basically. And it's really super easy. Number one, make good music that someone might want to put on a TV show or behind, or some instrumental music that they might want to put behind something. And then number two, start to try to find places where that music can be used. There's like three different avenues. The first avenue, and we talked about this in the last video, but the first avenue is these music libraries that we've been talking, like the BMG libraries, where people search for love song at the that says girl's going to be with somebody the rest of their life, even though they're not, because they're going to break up before the show is over. And they go and they find this song and they say, oh, that's perfect, let's use that. And that's a music library, except it's more of an exclusive library like that. When you sign with BMG, usually that's a perpetuity deal. It's like
Hmm.
you can't get it back in 3 years, 5 years, or whatever. Um, if you sign some non-exclusive libraries like Crucial, that's a certain number of years and it's
Yeah.
non-exclusive, so I can put that music somewhere else. Crucial is a good place to start. It's just hard. Another good place to start for people who are wanting to get into licensing is something like Pond5 or Motion Array or Artlist or one of these type of things. They're a little different because they're for people putting stuff into YouTube. But
Yeah.
if you're looking to get stuff into TV and film, you're going to have to look for libraries that specifically focus on that. And also, or there are these people called sync agents who work in advertising, but they also work with music supervisors who are looking for songs, and they'll go check out um, a sync agent. I had one on the show, and he says, "Here's the three ways a music supervisor will find a song for a show. The music supervisor will know somebody that makes music, and they say, I already know who I'm going to approach about this because I know these three people who do this kind of music. I'm going to go right to them." The second way is they don't know anybody. They go to their friend, the sync agent, and say, "Hey, do you know anything? We're looking for a song that's got guitar and a girl singing about loving someone the rest of their life." Sync agent says, "No, I don't know." And the third one is we fooled around too long. We don't have any more time. We got $1,000 or we got whatever we have. Let's go to a library and let's find a song by doing a search. And they do a search and they come up with a song and then they use that song. So there are lots of different people. Some people say, "Oh, you should only do one song at a time and go find that one song a home at a music
Mm.
supervisor," like your friends did, where they got the song in The Bachelor and they said, "We really worked hard." They probably knew him, had a relationship with the music supervisor of somehow, or
Yeah.
someone
I,
they
I I believe in their case, they someone on the team had an established connection with a person who trying to keep it broad enough where I don't give it away. But basically, there was an established connection on someone in the team where they were able to reach out to a very specific person and say, "Hey, we have the song. It's about this. We feel like it would fit here." And they went, "Okay, let me see what we can do." And that person is someone who's basically their living is getting music placed in TV shows and films. So
gotcha.
definitely
That could
very
be a
much
sync
an
agent
established relationship.
person,
It
almost. It
was
sounds like,
yeah, I think it was on a for a major label as well.
yeah.
So this is like a major, not a major label artist, but someone who's in a subsidiary of a major label.
And most
So they had a
labels
connection.
have a department that only focuses on this. They are
Yeah,
focusing daily on how can we get our artist stuff to shows and movies and advertising. But
yeah,
um, I think what you have to do is you have to have great songs and they have to be produced very well. We're not just talking about anything you make, but there's all sorts of qualities because there's all sorts of shows. There's so many different kinds of shows, and they're looking for so many different kinds of styles. And I mean, you've got ice truckers, and you've got swamp people, and you've got all these different kinds of shows that they don't just have a soundtrack. They're looking for certain songs, and then you've got Love Is Blind and stuff like that. And
yeah,
so it really depends on what music you do, where you approach. But if you, a lot of people say, "Oh, going to the music supervisor or to the sync agent's the only way because then you can make bigger money." Well, you can, but it's like you're you're you got to have that connection. And if you don't have that
yeah,
connection, and then it makes it tougher. And they're really more for artists going to that. So if you're, I know you have
Yeah.
a lot of artists following you, so that's probably where they want to go first. But the probably the broader way to get into sync licensing is to find a library that has bands and or artists and or writers that are like you, and you can send them 5 to 10 songs and let them hear what you do. And if they like it, they will get back to you and say, yeah, man, let's do some stuff. And they'll put you, they'll accept songs into the library. But then it's just kind of, you better hope somebody is searching for the song you want,
Yeah.
because even though BMG does have a section that pushes songs out, this song had been in their library for 3 years by the time it made it into a
Yeah.
show. So it's still a little bit of luck of the draw. Somebody finds it that needs it. I have shows all around the world that are finding these things, and they're finding them in libraries. Personally, I think it's still the best way for me is to make a bunch of quantity of songs and put them in a bunch in libraries and then let them be found. And the people who I know who are making six figures at this, I know people making six figures both ways, really making six
Mhm.
figures by being, a super great rapper girl that puts her music out, and she's just a mover and a shaker, and she goes right. She has a list of music supervisors and just sends it to the music supervisors. And then I know a guy who nobody knows who I don't even know where he lives, and he just has 2,000, 3,000 songs in libraries, and he makes multiple six figures a year.
Yeah.
But that's because he has 3,000 songs in libraries, and so he's got a way better chance than the person who says, "I've never made a dime on any library." I'm like, "How many songs do you have?" And they said, "5."
Right.
So it's you've got to. I'm at 2 or 300, and so I'm getting to that point where I'm getting more traction and getting more shows. I had Hack My Home. I heard something in one of mine, and it's like it's weird because that, and what was the other one? Nailed It Baking Challenge, and stuff like that. And it's just these are Netflix shows and shows on TBS and stuff like that, but they're just using the background of the song. These are similar on the same album that big song, Netflix song was on. These are on that
Yeah.
same album, and they're just using the track. And for 25 seconds, 45 seconds, 30 seconds, or whatever, and I do get paid pretty much the same, but um, it's weird because how did they just decide to use that track of all tracks? There should be a million tracks out there for them to use. So who knows how they're finding all this stuff? But um, e-
Yeah.
the library is probably the path of least resistance. You just have to make
I
that
feel so.
um, initial uh, email out to them so that they can hear your stuff, and you never send them links. You never send them MP3s attached to anything. You always send them a link to a Dropbox or to use a place called Disco now. I just did a video about Disco, which is very,
Yeah.
very, it's pretty much the industry standard of how music supervisors want to get music, because it's like a SoundCloud, but it's private, and they can also download those things from your disco into theirs and hold it for future uses. And so
Yeah.
that's I got a
Everyone I know that does this seriously uses Disco.
yeah.
A couple of them have their own internal label tools as
Mhm.
well. So, like for example, if someone's on like the Orchard, which is owned by Sony, there's like an internal private streaming link that you can download and also track analytics on that people often share songs with. And then I've seen some other commercial tools, but Disco seems to be the most popular.
I got my first deal with SoundCloud, but I would not recommend it anymore. This was 3
Yeah.
years ago or more, and almost 4 years ago. But now it's just so filled with ads, and the sound is bad,
Right.
and just don't use it. Get go get a disco for very cheap, and if you want to play the game, if you're really serious about it. And yeah, I I'd say I talk about it so much because it's probably the thing that I feel like I can um, do that it works most for me, who's not an artist. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm more of a composer and producer, so to me, it's the thing I can do and make the stuff I want to make, and then go find homes for it, and then go off and make more. Everybody needs to go off and a lot of the people who listen to your channel are doing that with Spotify. They make music and they're continually playing the Spotify game. But I think with all those songs, they probably have a possibility of being in sync too. And so it's just a
Yeah.
matter of finding a library or libraries. I have 5 and I'm looking for more because some of them aren't as
Yeah.
like active as the other ones. Like my BMG library is super active, but it, that's just that's just the game. Putting it in these places where stuff can be found, just like you put it on Spotify, Apple, and everywhere else, so it can be found.
Right.
And then you have to you do more work like you do, where you talk about how to run ads to get people there. You don't really run ads to get people to your sync
Yeah.
stuff.
Anyways, Eric, this has been awesome.
Yeah, man.
Everyone, go check Eric's links in the description, and he's the guy you want to go to learn about this stuff. So, which is one of the reasons why you have you on here, because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but you do. So, always
Well,
glad to have
don't
your
even
insight.
ask me what a pixel is and how it works either. So we're the same.